Hi there.
Hi.
Welcome to our mini-series on clarification.
Yep.
And today, again, talking from a living with a drinker point of view, I want to clarify what a boundary is and a behaviour that you can slip into thinking you're putting down a boundary, that if you really unpack it, is actually a threat.
Very often what happens in these videos is that Lou will turn to me and say, as the professor, could you explain something? So I'm going to turn to her as the therapist and ask her to explain something to me, which is boundary and threat. How do you see them, as different or the same? Or
Okay. Well, I think that for me, a boundary is kind of, if you do that, I have decided to respond and do this. Okay, it's kind of drawing a line, and I think in relationships, whether you're living with a drinker or not, having good personal boundaries, having good relational boundaries, even work boundaries, they keep you safe and they stop other people from impinging on your life in an inappropriate way.
Yeah, well, I suppose there is something to that, although a threat can be broader than that again.
Well, if you bring the word threat in, which I didn't bring in at that point because I hadn't talked about threat, the threat is doing that in a half-cock, if that's an English phrase, going off a half-cock. It means that you want to set a boundary down, you know it's appropriate to set a boundary down, but you do it in a kind of threatening way rather than a poised way, and it actually comes out a lot as blame. It comes out in anger, and there's nothing wrong with what you're doing, but generally our observation is that it's not really carried through. It becomes then an empty threat. So if you drink again, I say this a lot, I'll leave you. I can't tell you the number of times that I trotted that out in anger.
Is that different again? Is that ultimatum?
Well, it's threat and ultimatum, isn't it, really? Yeah, it's threatening to leave, I suppose. And did I ever leave my husband? No, I never did. So probably around the 10th time I said that, it just became an empty noise. And so he stopped listening to my point.
Yeah, I know we've talked about ultimatum before, and the danger with an ultimatum is that if you don't carry it through, then, as you say, it's empty. And the drinker just goes, yeah, right, fine, has no effect whatsoever.
Absolutely. Now, you'll probably find as we're talking that if you started to parcel off what's going on, that you probably have come out with a lot of threats and ultimatums. Okay.
I'm surprised if you didn't.
Absolutely.
I mean, you're human beings.
Absolutely.
That's what we do sometimes.
Yeah. Okay. And I've called it threat. It's my terminology for pushing down a boundary, maybe too quickly, in anger, not really thinking through, am I prepared to follow through on what I've said? So you come out of that behaviour, which is often very reactive, sometimes kind of angrily spontaneous, into setting a boundary.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think, I keep saying it with this program is that we are being pragmatic in this program, So if you're trying to stop a behaviour in a way that actually exacerbates the behaviour, then it's not really working, is it? And very often if you threaten somebody, then you'll get a counter threat. So it becomes this I'll do, no you won't, yes I will, and on it goes. And it doesn't really work that way. And very often, as you say, threat comes out of anger. It's a knee-jerk reaction to something that's going on. I often see boundaries as more thought through, more considered, more looking at the situation and saying, well, what's the problem with this situation? And in that respect, we have a tool called SHARE. And the tool called SHARE is about the consequences of drinking. It's not about the drinking per se, it's about the consequences of drinking and how you can lay down boundaries within that. And
again, it's the changing of the dance, isn't it?
It is the changing of the dance, But the boundary then is to say, okay, this is causing difficulties within our relationship. Therefore, if we do draw this boundary here, then that will help it. Rather than saying, you do this, I'll do that, and then it goes.
Okay, so let's give an example of this. And again, we strongly suggest you don't put a boundary down without really considering what you're doing. We also suggest that you do it in steps. Don't put down mega boundaries with mega consequences, no matter how much you're tempted. Take something like, next time you get drunk, I'm going to leave the room and go somewhere else.
Yeah.
You know, just a simple thing like that. The boundary you're putting down is, I will not look at this behaviour anymore. And we strongly suggest that as a boundary, because, you know, seeing your partner in his worst state is not going to help your romantic feelings in any shape or form. But to present that, to say, you know, when he's as sober as possible, you know, just say, I've been thinking about this and I've made the decision that if you start drinking, I am not going to be around to watch it anymore. I'm going to go out, I'm going to go upstairs, you know.
That's very important, that boundaries are set when the person is sober, or as sober as they possibly can be. And also, it's not done in the middle of an argument.
No.
You know, then it very often develops into threats.
Yes.
So it's considered, it's thought through, and it's said at a quiet time during a, you know, and actually it's said not with anger, not with aggressiveness, but with assertiveness. You know, this is the way I would see things going forward.
Yes. So, as dignified as you can, you say, just gently, I did tell you I'd go away, and then you remove yourself. You don't stalk off if you can help it, because again, that's you know, wandering back into threat. You just look at what he's doing and you follow through. And many boundaries, I think, need to be put down, and you can decide, obviously, around your children, maybe in the end around your life, and the, you know, leaving your partner is the final boundary, and sometimes that is the boundary that you get to, and we utterly, completely support you in that. Are you alone? No. When it's time for you to leave, absolutely leave. The boundary of if you're being hurt sexually or if there's violence, absolutely leave. That's a categoric boundary.
If you're sitting there saying, well, what boundaries would I put down, you know, have a look at Share. Share will tell you where alcohol is actually affecting your life. Share is about, is an acronym. It's about safety, it's about health, it's about ambition, it's about relationships, and it's about your environment. And there's lots of cues there. There's lots of information about how to use it. And once you start to look at that, then you start to see how alcohol impacts you. And once you see that, then you can say, okay, well, maybe if we did this, or maybe if we did that, maybe, and these are the boundaries.
Yes. And the wonderful thing about putting down a healthy boundary, particularly if you start small, is you actually gain some power. You know, you have done something, you have made a decision, you have followed through. Drink is not impacting your life and behaviour. It might only be in a little bit, but that power, that building up of power and empowerment is crucial for you.
And you're negotiating about behaviours rather than alcohol. You know, and that's a lot easier.
Okay, say a bit more about that, because that is so important.
Well, the thing is, if you start to get into you drink too much, oh no, I don't, oh yes, I do, then, you know, if the argument is about just how much the person drinks, how often they drink, then the person becomes very defensive about it. If, on the other hand, you say, well, see, when you drink, this is one of the things that happens. This is one of the things you do. You know, you sit there in front of the TV and you go, yeah, you know, because drunks love company. They love an audience. You know, you say, well, actually, it disrupts the family. The kids can't watch the programmes, you know. Will you go to another room, or we'll go to another room or something, you know. Then you're negotiating about a disruption of a behaviour, not about the drink per se.
And one of my greatest successes with my drinker was getting him to agree and follow through on taking his drinking out into another room or up into the bedroom, whatever. It didn't always work, but that made a huge amount of difference, because he used to drink in the middle of the lounge, you know, and it completely.
And very often that's what they do. So, I mean, small victory maybe, you think, but might be significant in the terms of how it affects your family. But the other thing, of course, is it makes it that bit more difficult for the person that's drinking. You know, and what you're doing is you're eating away at the pleasure of drinking, or the, you know, and making it less and less comfortable.
This is the stick, isn't it?
This is the stick. This is the stick. But little hits with the stick, just little bits.
And again, caveat here, whatever you do, think through about the boundaries of things like, telling the boss that he's drinking. Now, the impact on you and your family obviously would be quite huge with that. So think through the consequences of the boundary that you are setting, because what you don't want to do is just make the situation worse for you.
Yeah. And be careful that you are setting boundaries and not just threats and ultimatums.
Yeah.
The problem about an ultimatum is you get one chance at it. And after that, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So it's a disposable thing.
Yeah. But be kind to yourself.
Yeah.
100% sure that you'll be doing the threats.
Yeah.
All right, but this is the whole point of the program. We're taking you by the hand and say, why don't you stop that and do a good version of that over here, which is the boundary. And this is, again, what this series was all about, is clarifying, moving from that, which is not helpful, to this, which really can be. I think we've kind of done that one. Yeah.
I think we have.
Again, respond. We love it when you talk.
Yes.
Talk to us and we'll always talk back. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, we've set the boundary on this video now.
Yep, we're going to stop.
Stop.
Yes. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.